very warm welcome to all our viewers and welcome to a new edition of Africa Today, our program bringing you all the latest news and events happening around the African continent. My name is Angie Meher, and as usual we begin straight away with a look at some of the news making the headlines, where a new Egyptian satellite was recently launched as part of the effort to expand media presence in the African continent. The new satellite is to replace Nilesat 201, whose lifespan is expected to end in 2028. We have more details in this story.
On the evening of June 8th, the American space transportation and aerospace manufacturer SpaceX successfully launched Egypt's Nilesat 301 telecommunications satellite into space from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. Amr Imam, director of the Nilesat 301 project, said the Nilesat 301 satellite will broaden coverage to include South African countries and the Nile Basin countries, aiming for better communication with the African continent's peoples. Imam said the move is in line with the Egyptian political leadership's endeavors to deepen Egyptian-African relations. According to Imam, the Nilesat 301 satellite consists of 38 transponders, compared to 26 in Nilesat 201, and each transponder includes 10 TV channels. The new satellite will ensure broader internet service coverage in Egypt's remote areas to help develop infrastructure projects, new urban communities, and oil fields in the eastern Mediterranean, namely the Zohr gas field.
And continuing with our news segment, rebel leaders from Darfur's region present in Libya met with the Sudanese military officials in Niamey to discuss peace and return to Sudan. During the discussions, the parties agreed on the need to expedite arrangements as well as the implementation of security matters, a matter that requires huge financial means. More details to follow.
Sudanese government delegation held informal talks with 7 armed factions from the Darfur region in Niger's capital to discuss ways to join the peace process in Sudan and even their presence in Libya. On Thursday, several rebel factions based in Libya signed the Democratic Path Forces, calling to complete peace in Sudan, end war, and address the root causes of the Sudanese crisis. The declaration was followed by a 2-day meeting, 10 to 11 June, with a government delegation in Niamey, held under the auspices of the Pro-Mediation Organization, a French NGO including professional mediators and experts in the field of mediation and negotiations. The government delegation to the talks was led by the head of military intelligence.
And for more news, the World Health Organization has predicted a steep fall in 2022 of the coronavirus deaths in the African continent. A study by the WHO says more than half of the region's population has now developed some sort of immunity, mainly from unreported past infections. We have more details in this report.
The World Health Organization expects the number of COVID-19 deaths in its Africa region to fall sharply this year compared with 2021. The prediction was a hopeful one for the world's least vaccinated continent, though it reflected a vast undercounting of past coronavirus infections and deaths in official tallies. WHO scientists reported that the agency's statistical modeling forecast about 23,000 COVID deaths in 2022 in the 47-nation region, which includes most of the African continent. That would be a decline of more than 90% from the roughly 350,000 deaths the organization now estimates occurred in 2021. WHO's regional director, Dr. Machidi Somawati, said at a news conference Thursday, quote, "We are turning the tide on last year's catastrophically high COVID-19 death toll in the African region," end quote.
Some positive news there for the African continent, and we're now delighted to be joined over the telephone by our guest, Dr. Haytham Akka, the head of the Space Communication and Navigation Department. Doctor, it's a very good afternoon to you, sir. Hello, Doctor. Right. We do have a bit of a technical error with the phone call, ladies and gentlemen. Short break, and we'll be right back, hopefully with the doctor on the line. Stay tuned. Right, welcome back. We are now joined over the phone by Dr. Haitham Akka, the head of the Space Communication and Navigation Department. Doctor, a very good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon to you too.
Thank you very much for joining us, Doctor, this afternoon. And of course, Egypt successfully launched the Nilesat 301 satellite, a very important development in space navigation and satellite launches for Egypt. Could you tell us a bit about the importance of Nilesat 301 and what development purposes will this satellite serve, Doctor?
It is one of the key milestones in the Egyptian space roadmap. This is the first satellite operated by an African country that supports the entire African continent. We have added to the TV broadcast that we already have with Nilesat 201. We have also a broadband internet for Africa, for Middle East, and for North Africa. I think this is a big step for joining African countries under one development roadmap, I think.
Doctor, we heard the director of Nilesat 301 saying that the satellite is expected to broaden coverage to southern African countries as well as Nile Basin countries, aiming, of course, for better communication with the African continent's peoples. How do you see broadening communication impacting development in the African continent as a whole, Doctor?
Yes, it is a fact because Africa is a bit, some of the African countries lacking the infrastructure for communication and so on. It is a very costly infrastructure, cabling and optical fiber and so on. So a good alternative is usually a satellite for like Nilesat 301. And Nilesat 301 has the advantage of connecting the entire African.
Yes.
So it will be, I think it is one of the key points in African Union to have such a tool to be utilized in Africa.
Absolutely. And, also the new satellite is reportedly going to enable Cairo to complete and compete for influence in the African continent, specifically in the Horn of Africa, which is a very big market, really, for the Egyptian Nilesat satellites. Why is this region becoming a big market in this regard, Doctor?
Because the maritime trading is usually through Suez Canal or the south of Africa.
Yes.
So I mean, almost all the world trading is running through these two points. So we are now having full support and full communication capability with these two areas. So all the world trade will pass through Nilesat or can utilize Nilesat 301.
Indeed, a very important development. Let me ask you, Doctor, how can this system act as a, disaster monitoring tool as announced by the contributors of the project? Of course, the African continent is also suffering from its own, versions of climate change and, climate problems with the global warming situation all around the world. How can this satellite be used as a disaster monitoring tool in order to issue warnings, for example, for weather phenomenon?
Let me give an example of Ukraine now.
Yes.
One of the tools that was used during the war is using satellites to communicate the situation and give warning to other, cities and so on about the situation on ground because of lack of infrastructure or due to some ground services. So it is the same for Nilesat satellite. So it is not controlled by any other, ground movement. or ground activity. At the same time, NASAT-C01 have anti-jamming and jamming monitoring capability, so it is not easy to, cut the link between the ground and the satellite. So it is a futuristic satellite that have a good technological, advantages in this area.
Right, absolutely. I'd like to thank you very, very much, Dr. Haitham Akka, the head of the Space Communication and Navigation Department. Thank you so much, Doctor, for your time. And that's all the time we have for today's edition of Africa Today. My name is Angie Meher. Thank you for watching.